Hello, this is Cryptolyze. I hope you are well. This Wednesday, January 10, 2024, we meet today to talk about SOL, Solana's crypto. So as usual, we will review the fundamental part to explain what Solana is, the purpose of SOL in Solana, the news, because there is still a lot of it around Solana. And then we will project ourselves on the graphs, short, medium, long-term, on purchase prices, sale prices, and we will start right from, then remember what Solana is. Solana is a level 1 blockchain which aims to provide developers with functional blocks to be able to build decentralized applications. Solana made itself widely known during the previous bull run, notably through an extraordinary upward explosion on a blockchain that is not EVM compatible. So, it is very important to understand what is an EVM compatible blockchain. It is a blockchain that allows you to port applications and code from Ethereum to its own blockchain. Overall, that means that we are Solidity compatible, that we are compatible with the language most used in the development of smart contracts. This is not the case with Solana. Clearly, this was not the case for Solana, and in fact, it exploded despite the fact that it was not EVM compatible. And this is really very important to understand, is that Solana managed to create an ecosystem of developers despite the fact that it asked its developers to develop in Rust. Rust is not the most used development language worldwide, and above all, one of the simplest to use, in which, each time, it was complicated. To have access to developers to build smart contracts in Rust, and strong enough in Rust to be able to make solid smart contracts. And precisely, despite all that, Solana managed to be in the top 10. It remained there, despite the bear market, despite a whole series of FUD which was quite impressive, with a technology behind it which is relatively solid. Yes, there were shutdown issues in 2023 and 2022 at the level of Solana, but once again Solana defines itself as being a beta of its final evolution, and through their notion of proof of history, they are able to validate transactions with only Solana behind them. 2 days of transaction, so that means we don't need to have a very, very large blockchain, and we really have a big output in terms of speed. We are at more than 4,000 transactions per second in real terms, but we should be able to exceed 50,000 transactions per second in any case. This is what is noted in the general infrastructure of Solana. We have not yet been able to test it, but we therefore have a blockchain with just aberrant transactions per second, very, very low fees, despite the use of the blockchain which is still substantial, and a decentralization which is consistent with the youth of this project. We are at more than 2,500 nodes of validation now, despite the fact that we had a whole period of FUD. As a reminder in terms of FUD, Solana had a VC who was FTX who fell at the end of 2022 for fund management problems, and next to that we had a whole problem around Solana where we said that potentially Solana was dead because of that. And we went very, very low. And I was one of the few at that time to explain to you that that was not why we had to be careful, because Solana behind continued to develop, and we always had a lot of developers who continued to build decentralized applications, and that Solana had a community that was unique to Solana and not to any compatible EVM that could move from one EVM to another, and so people were going to fight for their ecosystem. And that's something they did. We will see everything at its price level, the evolution that there may have been. But in the meantime, there are quite a few things that have changed. So, Solana is a lot of development kits. We can build in a lot of languages. And now there is Solang, which is present, which allows you to develop in Solidity and port Solidity applications directly to Solana. So that's it. Solana is EVM compatible, which is rather positive. And Solana, next to it, with the notion of mobile stack, launched the Saga, which was more or less a flop at the beginning, which saw an upward acceleration and was simply robbed. Because when we bought a Saga, therefore a phone designed for on Web3, we had the possibility of claiming a certain number of cryptos, and in particular bonks, Shingcoin, which made I don't know how many multipliers at that time, and therefore people bought Saga to be able to reclaim systematically, the good one. But hey, that doesn't mean that before that, personally, I consider that we have a blockchain which offers a telephone and which is starting to work on the evolution of its blockchain and the use we have of decentralized applications on phones. I think it's very important for mass adoption. Besides, we still have a lot of things in progress. We have a lot of work being done on the NFT with the notion of Solana compression, which makes it possible to compress the minting of NFTs and therefore commonly reduce costs. And to side, we are going to have ports that we have already had with, in particular, Helium, which abandoned its own blockchain to come to Solana. We have HiveMaker, which is also present on Solana. And we have a few other projects which are in the process of being ported little by little on Solana. So the ecosystem is growing. And not only growing internally, managing to attract already existing projects with already existing teams to come and set up on Solana and use the blockchain itself, because we have an infrastructure that is starting to be really solid, and in which we have a development team which allows the development teams of other projects to come to Solana very easily. And that's really important. It's what allows us to ultimately have a complete ecosystem and to have a blockchain that becomes a real competitor in the field of decentralized infrastructure. So, what is also important for me is to talk about the notion of Ethereum killer or not. So I'm not Solana maximalist nor Ethereum maximalist, I'm in between. Each has its own use and both can live. Each on their own too, with their own ecosystem. It's not annoying. We must stop this Solana-Ethereum Iller war. No, it's Ethereum which will succeed. No, it's Solana which will succeed, etc. It's no use. You have to take a step back. Both have a use as investors. It's up to you to sort things out and be able to expose yourself to these two narratives, which are different depending on your convictions. Yes, but above all to have consistency in relation to what is happening. And generally, the people who define that now Solana is Ethereum killer and spits on everyone are the people who were not there when Solana was being FUD all over the place after FTX. So once again, we take a step back. We don't get manipulated, and we focus on our own investments. So, on the technical part, we are not going to go back too much to the passive in which we finished the 5 waves Elliotist. We did an ABC retracement. We have the establishment of a distribution, and a reaccumulation which is in progress, with a nice accumulation which took place with the first fall here Celsius, FTX which is here, and the whole period of December 2022, which was very complicated for Solana, in which here it was clearly necessary to buy. I kept telling you. And then we made the break. We did not manage to get back above this zone, therefore above the front FTX at $32, before a very long time. Therefore, which was the 23 October 2023, which was the breakdown of BTC, the return of liquidity to the crypto market, and behind it we saw the reaction of Solana on a return of liquidity. We can clearly see that Solana is currently draining liquidity, and this is one of the forces where we made a top at $125. Something which is enormous, which is one of the most significant retracements. Powerful ones that we found on altcoins, which had really suffered from the crash, and which had already actually experienced the bear market. Namely, that it is one of the cryptos which suffered the most during this bear market. And behind it, it is one of the cryptos which has accelerated the most since, and this is rather positive for the entire Solana ecosystem, especially since we have, still, a lot of news is coming, and it's actually creating excitement around Solana for the future. So for me, the two levels to watch will be 1, the 75, and 2, the 50. For several reasons is that 1, we have a big level of support here, which is maintained here and here. So there we will have to maintain this level there, and in which we can have an interesting ring strengthening opportunity. Same here in the 50, where it is obviously the rupture zone of the second phase of accumulation, finally of the first phase of accumulation, but which is the highest phase, in fact, of the accumulation, and the lower part is the 25. And we see that it's still very regular, 75, 50, 25. The support levels are really in these levels, and it's really impressive to what extent the notion of psychological price plays a lot on Solana. This is one of the reasons why we are going to look for the 200 for me quite quickly. And there we will have to position ourselves on the 200. Whether yes or no, we will have a sell-off on this part. And otherwise, we can consider that we are in an Elliotist wave, and at the end of the bull run go for a goal of 1,618 or more, with a Solana which exceeds the 400. Once again, we must plan for an evolution in market cap compared to the evolution we have already had on 2021. Understand that on 2021 we reached market caps which were already very high. But we can consider that the evolution of the market cap in relation to the injection of general liquidity into the crypto market could make X2, X3, X4, X5, X6 compared to what we were able to experience in 2021. And therefore that means that we have good prospects for Solana and the other cryptos, which have been able to maintain their ecosystem and continue to build despite all the FUD of bear market that we have been able to experience. I hope you liked this video. If so, don't forget to leave me a like and a comment. It always makes me very happy. And we'll see you soon for a new video.